We're going to open this meeting with a moment of silence, please. All right, and if you'll stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I've got something I'd like to mention if I may at this time.
Sure. Did you want to add something to the agenda?
I believe so, yes, sir. In our last meeting, we discussed the solar facilities. Anyway, it was a long meeting, which was highly unusual, and a late night, and we were presented with the option to look at zoning and planning, doing solar facilities in Bedford County. And I certainly respect Mr. Tuck's position on that.
But are you suggesting we amend, this is the adoption of the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Do you want to revisit that? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Then we would have to make that an action item.
Okay.
Action item, it'd be action item 9E, if I'm not mistaken, is that correct? To revisit the solar farm. Now, the action that we took at our last meeting was Mr. Davis in the majority.
Someone who voted in the affirmative would have to make a motion.
He was.
He was.
He was in the affirmative last meeting.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else to add to the agenda? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved.
You've heard the motion from Mr. Scott. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, next we have the citizen comment period. I have a number of citizens signed up to speak. This is a 15-minute citizen comment period. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, I have 6 signed up. If we can limit the remarks to 3 minutes, I would appreciate it. That's the standard for the citizen comment period. First, and I'll try to put a timer on just to give you an idea. First I have Leroy Saunders. And when you come up, if you could just state your name and what district or your address.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The people that are coming up to speak can speak on items that are not on the agenda, correct?
They are items that we do not have a public hearing on, as I understand it. Okay. Is that correct, Bridget?
Yes,
Yeah.
They can
So as long as we don't
they
have
can
a
speak
public.
to items on the agenda, just not public hearing items.
They can speak on anything that isn't on a public hearing
Okay.
or that has already been discussed and closed on a public hearing.
Yeah. Okay. Mr.
Well,
Saunders.
I am Leroy Saunders, and I live on Fancy Grove Road in Mr. Tuck's district. And my family and I have contracted with Urban Grid to allow part of our land to become a solar farm. And I have friends and neighbors in here who are maybe going to join us and put some of their land in the program too. Now, the main reason my wife and I decided to go with this is because we saw it as our best path to leave this land to our children, and they can keep it in the family. It just goes through. We don't see them subdividing or selling the land if it's paying its own way. Early in my life, I remember people talking about how wonderful it would be if we could harness the sun's energy. I mean, every day it hits us in the face. And if we could just get some sort of energy to help us in our daily lives, it'd be wonderful. And that has happened now. They have made solar panels that are efficient, and you can put them together in a large operation and make a commercial business out of it. So I think that's just amazing that that can be done now. It's renewable, clean, and you know, it doesn't cost to keep it up once you make the initial investment. The land that we have offered from my family is mostly in timber. And a lot of it is cut off. We're waiting to see, you know, if we can put it into this program or if we'll need to replant it in loblolly pine. I think the land we've offered, maybe 20 acres of it is in hay land, maybe 30 acres in pasture land. And the rest of it, which is a big majority, is in either cut over or young planted timber. I remember my mama saying to me when I was a young fella, when your life is coming to a close, when you're along in your years, one measure of how successful your life has been is, can you answer the question, is the world a little better since you've lived in this world? And I'm going to answer that question, yes, because I have 3 great daughters, and they've given me grandchildren. And that's my legacy. But I hope this board will see fit to join in a legacy for Bedford County. This is a good thing. This is good income for the county. And you don't have to go out, provide a shell building or an industrial park.
Mr. Saunders, we're well past the 3 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Next, we have Bruce Hartwick.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Bruce Hartwick. I reside in Bob Davis's district. You know, for those of you that don't already know, I won my election for a seat on the Bedford Town Council. I believe, hey, if I make the town better, I ultimately make the county better as well. And I look forward to working with each and every one of you and hope to build an alliance and build a bridge to make the town and the county a better place for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you. Next, we have Mark Martin.
How you doing, Mark?
Doing okay. Good evening. My name is Mark Martin. I live at 7791 Leesville Road. I'm in Charles District. I come tonight to speak also on the solar farm business. I think it's new technology, yes. And I think we need to go forward in Bedford to join with others that are building and allowing it. Because you see it in other counties. And a revenue source that you don't have to do nothing for. And yes, you might not want it in certain places. It might not fit all places. But it should be a permitted use with a special use permit. And it's a diversification of our properties that allow farms just like the Saunders farm, to be used to create income not only for them and the generations after Leroy, but also for Bedford County on a monthly basis. Because I'm not going to quote numbers because numbers change. But I think if we as a county walk away from it, we will miss an opportunity. Because there's many other places in Bedford County also that are not good for a jackrabbit to live that would make good solar farms. And we don't want houses on it because there's no infrastructure there for miles. But sure, the sun shines every day there. But please do not turn back. Go forward with it. Let the Planning Commission do their research, get you some facts, talk to these people, but do not turn back. Because we're going to need every dime we can get in this county like any other county. They're not doing it because it's cool. They're doing it because it's a true revenue source for all. And I thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Next I have Mark Wagner.
My name is Mark Wagner. I'm in Edgar's district, Dundee Road. I'm here in praise of the solar initiative as well. We've been approached for years by the solar folks, and it was always stopped at first meeting because the county wouldn't go ahead with the solar initiative. I think it'd be good for the county. It seems to be going every way in the country for the solar initiative, so I'm in praise of the initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Robert Kennedy.
Good evening. My name is Robert Kennedy. I live in Goodview in the Mickey's district. This is the first meeting I've ever been to in my life, so bear with me. My biggest complaint, and what I want to talk about real quick, is the internet that was recently upgraded in the county, where my understanding it was to go to the last mile. I hate to say it, but I'm in that last mile, and I'm not served by any of the new infrastructure that went in for the internet. They have the capability, they just don't seem to want to do it. I want to find out why not. I called Comcast, spoke to them, to run 1,000 feet of cable, to give me cable. They want 10 grand, which is utterly ridiculous. I've got a neighbor that's 192 feet away. He's over their 150-foot mark for free install. They want 3 grand from him. And I'd like to get to the bottom of it. My understanding was they were supposed to go to the last mile. In my experience, the last mile is the last house on that street. And they're not performing the way they're supposed to. BrisNet, which was a possibility, isn't going to work for us because they've only got 2 transmitters on their tower and they point north and south. I'm west. So I want to see what we can do because this county and the grants and everything else would spend a lot of money on it, but we're not all getting service, and I know I'm not the only one. There are many other people in the same boat. Thank you for your time.
May I ask which tower would you be served by?
Medina.
Medina. Can you check? Thank you.
I'm 1.7 miles from that tower, but in order for me to get service there, I've got to put up about a 75 to 80 foot pole to put their antenna on. It's just the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next I have Sarah Saunders Forey.
Hello, I'm Sarah Saunders Foray, and you heard my dad speak, Leroy Saunders, and I live right next door with my husband and children. And I'm here also representing my sisters and the next generation, our children. And we are also in favor of the solar project. My whole life, I watched my grandparents farm, my mom's parents and my dad's parents. And my parents never discouraged any of us in our generation against farming or from farming. They just said, if you're going to do it, don't quit your day job. You're also going to need some other income coming in. And we went our separate ways. We are not full-time farmers, but living on the farm now, I work, I'm a teacher, my husband works, he's a carpenter. We work full-time and we try to help mom and dad out on the farm. And I watch my children. They know where their beef comes from. They know where the chickens lay the eggs. And they know how to grow a whole bunch of kale out in the garden. And I'm happy that they have that opportunity, and I hope that they will continue to have it from here on out. And it amazes me that there's potential for them to maybe become farmers themselves someday. And I see this solar farm as a way to allow an alternate revenue stream that maybe will keep that dream alive for them. And I also think that solar doesn't mean the end of farming on the land that uses the solar panels. We've looked at other ways we can add different types of farming underneath those panels. We're interested in sheep, and we're interested in what kind of crops or honey. I just think that it opens up a whole host of alternatives, and I hope that you'll talk to my parents outside of this meeting. Mr. Tuck has their phone numbers, and they would be more than happy to show you what they're thinking and what we have in mind. And it's not a decision they've made lightly, and I encourage you to talk to them if you have questions and consider it, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And John
Puvak.
What is it?
It's Puvak.
Yeah, there's no U in there. Yeah, it looks like
I need to work on I type a lot. I don't write very much anymore.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is John Puvak. I'm a lawyer with Gentry Law in Roanoke, Virginia, 10 Franklin Road, Roanoke, Virginia. I'm here representing Urban Grid. Again, we want to thank the board for the action it took at its last meeting. It's important to note that there's no action on any solar project tonight. This is just a first step, right? The first step is the ordinance. I have a unique opportunity to represent local governments and developers in the solar industry. So I've run the gamut across Virginia, and the ordinance is the first step. We've taken a look at the county's draft ordinance they started working on in 2019, and we've largely endorsed it from Urban Grid standpoint. We've sent our minor comments to Mr. Hiss and Jordan Mitchell on Friday. It ultimately retains control to the board and the Planning Commission to make a decision on a solar project. So again, we thank the board for the decision it made at last meeting, and we encourage you to let that process fold out and let the Planning Commission review it, and you'll be able to evaluate every solar farm on its individual merits. You've heard prior meetings about all the benefits of solar. There's obviously additional revenue, not only for landowners, but there's additional revenue for the county. But without an ordinance, Urban Grid won't bring a project forward, and no other project will come forward. So the county will just miss out on that opportunity. So again, we'd ask you to let the process bear out, have an ordinance that allows a special use permit process. Every developer in Virginia is aware of that. There are almost no projects that are by right for a scale like this. So every project knows that they need to come through a public process. So we welcome that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, anyone else wishing to speak during the public comment period? All right, seeing none, I'll close the comment period. And next we move to the consent agenda. Mr. Hiss.
All right, there are 2 items on the consent agenda. The first one is a consideration of a resolution authorizing the application, acceptance, and appropriation of a bulletproof vest grant for the sheriff's office. And then item B is consideration of a resolution requesting a real estate property tax refund for a tax-exempt property being Eastlake Property Holdings, LLC. Those are the 2 items.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I will need to abstain from 6B as I attend East Lake.
Okay, then we're going to have to do them separately. All right. Can I get a motion on 6A?
So moved.
Who was that?
Give it to Mickey.
All right, Mickey made a motion to approve item 6A. This is the one for the Bulletproof Vest grant program. Mickey?
Yes.
Mr. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Bainsley?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. All right, and the other one is consideration of a resolution requesting a real estate tax refund for tax exempt property.
So moved.
All right, you've heard the motion from Mrs. Parker. Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Bainsley?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Abstain.
Mr. Tuck?
Abstain?
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Next, we have the approval of the minutes. These were sent separately in an email. They are for July 27th, 2020.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just didn't understand the July 27th minutes. We list here 7 o'clock regular meeting, but then you flip over here, it says 7 o'clock regular meeting, and it doesn't have a date on it. What am I missing? On page 7, about 2/3 of the way down. It starts over at 7 o'clock, and I don't understand, is that a separate meeting?
No, I think it's just,
No, that's just the wrong time. It just needs to be
But the items all start over with item 1.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The other agenda was all.
Okay. Well, thank you, thank you. I don't sleep all the time.
so what is the modification here? What lines are we modifying?
But you can't say page 7 because they're all page 7.
No. I think what you're confused is first you list the agenda like this.
And then the action
And then you
items.
have the actual minutes.
7.
Yeah, this is action item 7.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay.
So does just line 87 go away?
No, he was confusing this number up here with something else. It's item number 7 on every page.
Yes, but does anything change with the minutes? No.
No.
Okay. That's what I'm trying to confirm.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes.
After you've created all that confusion. All right. For the motion from Mr. Johnson, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. All right, next we have public hearings and presentations. We have a public hearing consideration of a resolution authorizing the adjustment of fees associated with the disposal of solid waste. This is resolution R110920-03. Staff presentation by Public Works Director Sheldon Cash.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So at our last meeting 2 weeks ago, we talked about some proposed changes to the solid waste fee structure. And in the interest of time, I'll just run through those very briefly. The commercial tipping fee is at our current rate of $41 per ton. The proposed rate is $52. Wood waste, same thing, 41 goes to 52. Commercial tire surcharge going from $2 per tire to $3 per tire. The household tire allowance for each individual household in Bedford County gets 8 free tires per year would go from 8 free per year to 0 free per year. Inert materials, rock, brick, block, dirt, stone are $0 per ton now. That would go to $5 per ton. Public scale fee, $1 per vehicle going to $5 per vehicle. And mobile home disposal, current rate of $250 going to a proposed rate of $250 plus the disposal fee of $52 per ton. That being said, I'd be glad to answer any questions the board may have. I would point out that the effective date for these we had proposed as January 4th, 2021.
January 4th?
Yes, January 4th.
All right, any questions for staff? Okay, thank you. All right, And this is a public hearing, so I'll open it up to the public for comment.
Okay, I'll just go on record and say I'm against this proposal. I'm against raising fees on the landfill, and from what I understand, weren't we in the process of closing this current landfill anyways? Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? All right, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and open it up to the board for discussion and possible action. I'll address the comment. Bruce, the issue here is, yes, we're in the process of shutting down one of the cells, the current cell, because it's nearing capacity, so we have no choice. And the lesser expensive option, long-term, that we've been told is to ship it. And this brings it in line with the actual cost to ship it. Because if we do not actually raise the fee, then we will just be supplementing that with general fund dollars. So we're trying to just bring it in line with the actual cost. So that's why the fee would increase. Any other comments from the board? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I think we should approve it.
All right. Mr. Davis has made a motion to approve Resolution R110920-03. Any other discussion? All right, Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Scott? Yes. Mrs. Bainsley?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Next, we have action and discussion items. First, we have a consideration of a resolution to appropriate an additional $250,000 of CARES Act funds to the Nonprofit Recovery Program, Resolution R110920-04. Staff presentation by County Administrator Robert Hiss.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an item that was carried over from the last board meeting as it was tabled to gather just a little bit more information. So as a reminder, this is originally the board had appropriated $350,000 for the nonprofit recovery program. We received good feedback from the community and received a total of 38 eligible applications, which totaled $587,967. All those applications were reviewed, and it was found that all the applicants met all the criteria, meaning that the nonprofits are in good standing with the state of Virginia. They are all for the benefit of Bedford County residents. They're all engaged in legal activity, which is important. All applicants provided the required documentation. That all applicants' needs are due to COVID-19 pandemic, and a good bit of their applications are due to the inability to fundraise, because a lot of our nonprofits have not been able to do that over the last, since March. And a number of applicants are also incurring costs associated with reopening or the need to redesign their program and services to meet the clientele that they're servicing in the community. So all these applicants met these kind of criteria benchmarks. So anyways, that's the recommendation is to appropriate this extra money from the CARES Act in order to award this to the nonprofits.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve resolution R110920-04.
All right, heard the motion from Mr. Johnson. Any other discussion? Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Does the public have a right to?
No, this is not, this is just an action item. No public hearing on this. Mr. Johnson?
Yes again.
Mr. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yeah.
Mrs. Bainsley?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. All right. Next, we have Consideration of a resolution adopting the Virginia Department of Labor and Industry mandated infectious disease preparedness and response plan. This is Resolution R110920-05. Staff presentation by Fire and Rescue Chief Jack Jones.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen. This matter is something that was mandated by the Department of Labor and Industry, as you can see from the memo, in response to the COVID crisis that we're currently involved in, and it concerns training of staff, their mandates from the Commonwealth. We've looked at all of the requirements and the mandates and developed a training program and a policy for all of the staff, taking into consideration all of their challenges and hazards for the specific jobs. We have mitigation strategies and follow-up plans that we take with each and every employee who potentially is exposed. We're in total compliance with the requirements of the Code of Virginia. Human Resources and County Admin reviewed it and worked through it, and we have no bumps in the road. And then also we have a training program which was online for all of our employees. You've probably seen the emails on it. And then people that do not have computers at their workstations have a plastic flip card set that they go through. So a requirement of this mandate is that it be adopted by the governing body, the Board of Supervisors. So I'll entertain any questions that you may have, but we are in compliance with this, and we've been live for a brief while with this document.
Any questions for Jack? All right, thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt Resolution R110920-05.
I think it's 06. At least in this one. Oh, no, you're right. That one's 05, the next one's 06. Also Jack. All right, sorry. All right, you've heard the motion from Mr. Tuck. Mr. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yeah.
Mrs. Ainsley?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Next, we have 06. Jack Jones, consideration of a resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 ambulances for the Bedford County Department of Fire and Rescue.
Good evening once again. Just as some current information, currently as of today, we've had 1,423 cases of COVID-19 in Bedford County, 62 individuals hospitalized, and unfortunately 18 deaths. And as we all know, the point that we make often when we're talking about clinical practices, that's not 18 people, right? Mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters and neighbors, so there's really the impact on the community. So we come now to the ambulance need. In the previous budget, we'd had 1 ambulance in place, which is a bare minimum. We need to replace 1 each year because of the size of the county and the miles that we put on the ambulances. So in the memo, we discussed the opportunity to replace 1 or 2. 2 is what is needed at this point. Based on the spreadsheet that you have that follows the memo, you see a replacement cycle for the vehicles there, and it's pretty significant, and it's overdue. In Bedford County, an ambulance will last us about 3 years, which is a pretty significant exchange and turnover rate because of the trips to the hospitals from parts of Bedford County. We're looking at several hours from Huddleston and Manita to the General or Roanoke Memorial and then back, and the amount of time that they sit and they run. The great opportunity we have before us, as we shared with the Public Safety Committee, is it takes about a year to get a medic unit. They have to find a cab and chassis, and they're only made once a year or so. Then you've got to spec it out and design it. It has to be manufactured and then delivered. Currently, our vendor that we routinely use has several that are on site on his property that are available, and these, based on the pricing that we look at, which is very, very competitive, also have the stretcher and the lifting devices, which is really a significant savings. Chief Blankenship knows all of the inner workings of the bids on the particular ambulances, but in this situation, these are sitting on a lot. There's something that we desperately need, and it's actually a pretty significant financial benefit for the county. And then, as you see in the spreadsheet in the back, that we have, we'll have to be back at some point. We have revenue recovery funds, which generate some of the funds for such things, but with the call volume that we're faced with and the need to be on the road all the time, maintaining a replacement cycle is really critical. I'll take any questions you might have.
How many miles do you typically put on these things in 3 years?
We will get them up to about 150 or 130 to 150, and then people tell you, oh, diesel, it's just broke in, it's this, it's that. Not on an ambulance. We end up rechassing them, which we have an opportunity to do, and the only reason we can re-chassis them is because we turn them over so quickly. If you keep one for 5 or 10 years, you really can't re-chassis it, but we turn them over in such a quick period of time. So then we're at half the price with some of our medic units because we just put a new cabin chassis under the box. So we're between 130 to 150 miles.
150,000.
Do these replace, or the other two are going out of the system, or are these going to be addition?
These will replace ones that have very, very high mileage based on the day, right, when we get to do the replacement, the condition on it, have an assessment done, whether it can be a reserve medic unit, meaning it's put into play when something's in the shop, or whether it just the better benefit is to get rid of it. Often we rotate them with the vendor and we let the vendor get the most money for us, and then they just apply it to the price of the unit that we're getting. Our big challenge is with fleet maintenance as well. The central garage can't do much of the work on these types of units, so they have to go to other places, and that's time taking them to Piedmont Fleet in Lynchburg or taking them to Atlantic up in Roanoke. So it's lost time. It's not a quick turnaround, and so much equipment has to be exchanged that we spend far more time than we'd probably like to managing the fleet, moving the vehicles around.
What's as far as when you say you change them out, what's that mean? You just trading them off?
We will. We'll have to, all the equipment has to be moved. We have to have the state Office of EMS come in and inspect them. A lot of things have to be mounted. The state requirements require brackets, and it's actually gotten more onerous recently with the number of brackets and things that have to be installed so that nothing moves and nothing sways. It's not a really quick process. And then radios as well.
Because in my business, we get 350,000 miles. I've got a truck that's got 375,000 miles and it still runs good. I mean, 150 with today's equipment seems to be a really, really early retirement of that vehicle.
It is. It's are we penny wise or pound foolish is what it comes down to because of the maintenance costs as well. When we get to a certain point, we know from experience, just like with other vehicles, you start getting worn out with maintenance issues and things start failing, and then that's again more time and more rotation in and out of the shop.
What does the people that you trade them into, what do they do with them?
They sell them. If you look around Bedford County, you see a lot of plumbers are using old ambulances for some reason, but they'll sell them to other businesses or other industries. I think a lot of times they take the cabin chassis apart and they parcel them out for other pieces.
Any other questions?
What's the new ambulance cost?
These are about $320,000. That's a big figure.
I find it hard to believe that with just 150,000 miles on an ambulance, I mean, again, I'm not a medical expert, not even close, but I find it hard to believe that the vehicle itself is worn out. I mean, keeping them on the road is far better than, and I know that I see them, when I do see them, they're sitting there idling, but I'm in construction, and every construction guy that I know leaves his diesels idling. They say it's better for them to sit there idling than it is starting and stopping.
That's right. There's value to that.
I tow trucks and trailers up and down the road all the time, and I just find it hard to believe that we need to replace them with such short mileage on them. I don't understand why you couldn't go at least another 100,000.
The history has proven that that's not possible, and that it does become expensive. And then again, there's a certain amount of liability when we have units that break down. I'm not a proponent of having the units on the road when we have mechanical issues and we're sitting on the side of the road. And that has happened.
Well, I make my living by keeping my vehicles moving too, sir. And I'm not a proponent of my vehicles sitting on the side of the road. They don't. We maintain them, and I'm not saying that you guys don't. I'm just asking if you could get a few more miles out of them to save the county taxpayers a little money.
That's not the history that we've seen in these vehicles.
You said it's 320,000 each?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll open it up to the board for discussion and possible action.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Parker.
We had this discussion in our public safety meeting. Supervisor Tuck and myself attended that meeting with Mr. Hess and Chief Jones, Blake, I can't think of your name. I knew you was Abby. And we actually thought that this would be a good opportunity to use some of the CARES funds. And there was no argument as far as the need. And I think, quite honestly, they're using, having to borrow, aren't you borrowing some volunteer to fill in? Because the need is there and we don't have the vehicles, and it's a great opportunity to use CARE funds for exactly what, to me, they're running more trips because of COVID, and there is a true need. I know it's expensive, but this is a really good way of using the CARES money. So I'll make a motion that we approve resolution R110920-07. Six?
Six.
Is it? Oh,
Sorry.
6.
I made the same
you're right.
mistake you made.
You're right. 6, excuse me.
All right, you've heard the motion from Mrs. Parker.
I got a question.
Yes.
Yes, what does this do to our CARES fund?
Well, it would reduce it by that amount of money that's in the agenda item. We do have plenty to cover it. As you may recall, we've talked for a little bit about the recovered salary savings that we can realize by paying for all the public safety salaries from March through the end of the year with the CARES funds. And
So will this money come out of the out of that or out of the pure CARES fund?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have a great answer for that.
Well, I would like to know, and I'd like for us to keep some very good account of the money that's been applied to the salaries, how it is spent, and to ensure that it is spent towards CARES Act.
Well,
COVID-related funds.
It's hard to answer it because what we've allocated to the CARES Act so far, we don't know if we're going to spend it all. So we've appropriated a certain amount of money for certain purposes, but we don't know if all of it's going to be spent. So I guess for what's been appropriated so far from like the first round of CARES funds, this would not come out of that pot of money.
Right, I understand that part.
This would really come out of the second pot that we received, and that's where this would come from. And we have nearly $5 million of funds that have not been accounted for or appropriated out of that second pot of CARES money.
Including your salaries.
Right.
Well, I would like to know if this fund comes out of money that's already been qualified versus the salaries, or whether it's coming out of pure, straight COVID-related CARES Act funding. Because if it's coming out of the salaries, then it's not coming out of CARES Act funding. It's coming out of, we've already appropriated that money through the salaries.
Well, maybe you can change your motion to be from CARES funding.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it says.
Whatever we spend, I guess the answer it a different way is whatever we spend on the ambulances, it would not be applied to those public safety salaries that we can reimburse ourselves for.
And it's not in the CIP, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So.
I just don't want to get ourselves in a situation. I'm looking ahead to accountability a year from now on how we appropriate funds, and I'd like to be real clear here where the funds are coming from. I'm all for buying the ambulances.
All I can say is that a number, and we talked about this in the Public Safety Committee meeting, that there's a number of other local governments who have utilized CARES funds for this type of expenditure, and we feel very confident that this is an eligible expenditure.
That's not what I'm questioning.
So, and we have, like I said, nearly $5 million worth of CARES funds in the second tranche of CARES money that we have not appropriated. So this would be essentially appropriating $640,000 of that $5 million.
Okay,
for
so
this
it's not going to
purpose.
be taken out of the money that's already been appropriated for
Right.
salaries? All right, that's all, that was my question.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions? All right, motion's on the floor from Mrs. Parker to approve this resolution. Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yeah.
Ms. Bainsley?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Next, we have a consideration of resolution awarding the contract for agenda and meeting management software. This is resolution R110920-07. Staff presentation by County Administrator Robert Kiss.
So the way we function currently in terms of the administrative office and getting agendas prepared and minutes and then archiving and so forth is very much just a homegrown methodology of file sharing and other maneuverings that we do that it's very inefficient and time consuming with our administrative staff in order to get an agenda ready and all the post-meeting work that has to be done as well. So these types of systems are to help with creation of agenda, to prepare the minutes and archiving this type of data. These types of systems are utilized by literally thousands of local governments across the country. And really where they see the utility of this is all in workflow efficiencies. So if you get into kind of the Lean Six Sigma type world in terms of finding efficiencies of workflow and so forth, this is a tool that really helps add value in that way in terms of saving hours of work of multiple staff members. So a few months ago, actually it was last year, the board reappropriated during our reappropriation process $25,000 to help fund this effort. We weren't able to get it done this past year, so we were going to do it this fiscal year, and the Board of Supervisors again reappropriated the same $25,000 again. And we finished up a process where we did a request for proposals. We received 8 proposals from very good firms across the country. We selected 4 for demonstrations. After that, we narrowed it down to 2 finalists and checked their references and a number of other due diligence. And it was determined that Prime Gov is the best solution for Bedford County. Also, that was taken into consideration during this is the way I envision this being used is it wouldn't only just be for Board of Supervisors purposes, but we can have essentially unlimited number of committees, commissions, authorities utilize it too. So at least from my perspective, and in fact, we had staff from the planning department and from the economic development department as part of our selection committee, because I would at least initially, I would want them to also utilize it for planning commission and EDA meetings as well. So we'd start utilizing it as a enterprise-wide application, not just administration office and Board of Supervisors. So anyways, where the budget, all these type of companies, they all really cost about the same amount of money. They're all in the $25,000 range. This one with Prime Gov is within just slightly over that, but we can cover that extra $900 in our budget this year. And of course, there is a annual support maintenance fee going forward of nearly $20,000 a year, which would be, I guess, in budget FY22 and going forward. So anyways, the recommendation from the staff is to enter into a contract with Prime Gov for the agenda and meeting management software.
Any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Parker.
It's $20,000 per year plus a 3% per increase per year. So it goes up 3%, 3%, another 3, another 3. So every year it's 3 more percent, correct? So
Correct.
I mean, I understand paying the $25,900 to get it, but why are we paying? What's the need for the annual fee? What do you get for the annual fee?
Yeah, I mean, it's a couple things. you know, part of it is the hosting of hosting of it. Also, which most of these softwares now, that's what you do, is you pay a company to host it. Of course, it's all the updates that they always provide, whatever training, whatever customization that we may utilize as well. So, yeah, it's just the annual maintenances, general maintenance and upkeep and customization that we may utilize.
I have to agree with Mr. Hiss on that. We pay a fair amount of that in our business.
I guess I have similar questions as Mrs. Parker. I guess this is supposed to make the whole process more efficient. But clearly, I mean, if there's training required, then there's still going to be some hours associated with using the software. And what I'm trying to figure out is, how many hours are we going to save? I mean, and again, I'm not so worked up about the initial cost of the software as I am about $20,000 ongoing every year. That, I mean, I'm thinking, shoot, that's a good part-time job. I'll come up here and set up all your meeting agendas if you're gonna pay me $20,000 to do it, and you won't have to spend an hour.
Maybe we can rotate committees. The Board of Supervisors pay the first year, and Planning Commission pay the second, and EDA pay the third.
Ooh, I like that.
Well, I mean, seriously, for 20 grand, I mean, that seems like, it's not, I'm not sure if I'm getting the value that I need here. I mean, that's a half a man year.
Well, and I know Bridget and I sat down and really didn't kind of, and maybe I should have put that in this write-up. I know she and I sat down and really tried to spec out the amount of hours that she spends and I spend, and of course, and there's other people as well, and they won't all go away, of course, but I think that we, at least in our office alone, we figured it would be a quarter of a year's worth of value, especially in Bridget's job, and it would save me a good bit of value too. To answer your question directly is, no, our saving and efficiencies do not totally offset the $20,000 a year, but just being fairly conservative and not calculating in any of the other departments, I think the hourly savings would be at least in the 2/3 to 3/4 of what this annual maintenance would be. That's what we've kind of calculated internally, is
So
what it would be.
You're able to offset a fourth of it, do you think?
Yes.
Any change to the agendas with the new system? I mean, does it look the same, or?
Well, no, we can make it, they would utilize whatever formats and templates that we wanted to use. So it can look almost exactly the same as much as we want to. It's really the workflow behind the creation of all this is where all the efficiencies are utilized, because now it's very difficult to deal with.
Will we be able to get minutes the next month?
I think so.
Right now, we have to
Yeah.
vote so far back.
I think it would be a lot more helpful with that. Again, it's freeing up some more time, so more time can be spent on that. And through this program, also some of the digitization of how the meetings are conducted and our post-meeting work allows that to happen much more quickly. So yes, I would envision that
I don't know.
that we'd be able to do that.
I'm not convinced this new system will result in us getting them any quicker, but I bet you if we spend this money, we'll be getting them quicker.
Well, no, I mean, it actually does really truly streamline now you have Bridget sitting in a closed room, playing a tape, typing as she goes, listening to the tape of this meeting. And now with this system, it is able to digitize some of the actions, motions, and so forth. So some of those things a lot of items are auto-populated. I guess what I'm trying to say is we can set it up so you have an agenda and the different motions and votes are auto-populated into the minutes, and then she can add whatever context she wants to add to it. So there is actually a lot of efficiencies in terms of that time that the system actually performs for us.
Mr. Hess? Would you be willing to ask the folks at Prime if they would consider a 25% discount?
Sure.
Never
Yeah, I
hurts
mean-
to ask.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean, it's a good idea.
And I mean, I'm just, the 20 grand right off the bat, you know, in annual maintenance, it just seems steep to me. Because, I mean, annual maintenance is basically a software update probably every 6 months or something, you know, just to make some tweak or improvement or something like that. I mean, that just seems like it's pretty steep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you, Mr. Sharp. It's just, I mean, in analyzing the RFPs and the proposals, this is what the market is for these systems.
I think they all just
PrimeGov
talk and say, hey,
and they might be.
let's just agree to gouge every locality.
Well,
You can
and I
have
wonder,
this one.
I mean.
Yeah, PrimeGov isn't any more expensive or less expensive. They're all in the same ballpark.
Are these the big dogs, or these the ones that have the largest
They were
market
over
share?
$80,000.
No.
The first two that we eliminated, one was 82,000 and one was 79,000. We didn't even bother
Good job.
looking at theirs.
Good.
So, yeah, there was a reason we only talked to 4, and that was because they were all on.
Yeah, I would quit my job and just come do that for them.
Just do a demo software?
Yeah, you don't have to, we don't have to buy this. Okay, all right. I guess we've asked enough questions. What are we gonna do?
I think if we're gonna move forward with it, Robert needs to agree to ask for a significant discount.
Oh, I mean, I'm
You can ask, but-
super happy to ask. We'll just.
But they'll watch this YouTube video and say, no.
Should we put it off for a discussion later on?
I assume we've got to go ahead and take some type of action here, but what are you going to do?
Mr. Chairman, I just move that we adopt Resolution R110920-07.
Now, you've heard the motion from Mr. Tuck to approve this resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a friendly amendment contingent on Mr. Hiss asking for 25%.
Thank you, Mr.
That doesn't mean he's going to get it, it
Right.
just means he asked for it. All right, you okay with that, Mr. Tuck?
That's fine. You can ask for it to be free if you want to.
Thank you, Mr.
Well, you pay for what you get with that.
Mr. Tuck?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yeah.
Ms. Baisley?
Yes.
Ms. Barber?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. All right, next we have item 9E, which is the solar farm, readdressing the solar farm vote.
Mr. Chair, it would have to be a motion to reconsider per your bylaws.
Yeah.
That anybody who voted in the affirmative for that could make that motion.
All right, is that, Mr. Davis, you're the one that added this to the agenda. How would you like to proceed?
I'm just gonna pass on that.
All right, you're gonna pass on it? All right, we've added it to the agenda. Anyone else want to address it?
Well, we have to do something, we have to take action because you added it to the agenda. We can vote it down.
We can.
You can't just skip it.
Can we?
They can.
Yeah.
In this
He can
case.
withdraw the request to add
Then
that.
he needs, I mean, you can't skip it. He can withdraw the.
Right, withdraw.
All right, so 9E is withdrawn. Next, board committee reports, public safety committee update. Any,
You want me to cover it?
Supervisor Parker and I met, and of course, you acted on the ambulances tonight. We did have another recommendation that we wanted to push towards the Personnel Committee to consider, was to reclassify a unfilled position for a training. It's not currently a training officer, but we feel there's a real need for us to have an on-site training officer, not just for our full-time paid staff, but for our volunteer staff, to fill some holes there. So we're just asking that move to the Personnel Committee for consideration.
I think the other Personnel Committee item was the review of the annual leave multiplier
Right,
for the,
right.
since they're 24 hour shifts, their leave accrual rate's the same as any other 8-hour employee. So there was some discussion about looking at a different multiplier for those types of, for those employees too. And that would be a personnel committee discussion. And there were a few other items that was discussed in the report that would really be reviewed more during the budget time for the FY '22 budget. Yeah, sorry, get my years mixed up. With air pack replacements, relief factors, turnout gear, and the fire apparatus replacement program. So there was some discussion about that in the committee meeting, and those would really reemerge during the budget discussions for FY '22.
Mr. Chair, just maybe one more thing. I don't know how much we talked about it, but looking also as a way of helping with the fire companies with their fuel, and we're going to have a discussion about that with the next budget too.
Okay. Yeah, well, we might need that with the potential new administration. The fuel costs might be going up.
Yep.
Next, we have board comments.
Yeah, I don't see it on here anywhere, so it's worth mentioning that there's a meeting tomorrow night at the Parks and Rec. It's a special call meeting that we're all invited to, and it's been advertised that more than 2 of us may be there. It's concerning the center, the old, not the same folks that did it a couple of years ago that came and presented, but it's a thing that Fred Sylvester's kind of put it together. It's an interesting concept for a pavilion type thing. But anyway, it's Parks and Rec tomorrow night at 6:30, and it's been advertised.
All right. Anything else? All right. Next, we have board appointments. Any appointments? All right. Seeing none. County Administrator report.
And the only other item I had, and it came out with your supplemental materials on Friday, was the looking at the 2021 General Assembly legislative priorities from the Board of Supervisors. And what I include in the packet this evening was what was adopted for last year's General Assembly. So I was thinking, if you had a chance to read that over the weekend, and I'm sorry for the late notice of sending it out, if there's any thoughts that we wanted to discuss this evening, or we certainly need to discuss at our next board meeting, certainly, in order to get it to our General Assembly members in a timely manner.
Before the 5th of December.
Yeah, so, but if there's any thoughts, if anybody wanted us to research or start wordsmithing any ideas, if you had any tonight, I'd be happy to mark them down so Patrick and I can start putting our pen to paper, our Scribner.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
On behalf of my service on TLAC, but also for the constituents there at the lake, Kathy Byron is proposing to introduce some legislation in January to assist with tow sports, wake surfing issues that we have at the lake. Currently, they can come within 50 feet of docks and shoreline, and the wake surfing guidance nationally is 200 feet. Right now, we have 3 years' worth of data on damages and soil erosion, dock issues. Got a call this week. Some folks had to spend $60,000 to repair their dock from wake damage from this type. It's not that we want to ban that type of sport, but we need them to get away from the shore. And so I'd like to see as one of the legislative priorities that we support Kathy's legislation that would hopefully find some bipartisan support. But it really is an increasing issue out at the lake, especially this past summer, all the high floodwaters and stuff. People did not stay off the lake. There's injuries, people getting thrown off their docks, things like that. These wakeboarders and water tow sports are getting too close into where people are in the water swimming, and so we need some guidance around that.
50 feet is nothing.
I know, that's what.
A ski rope is 75 feet.
Yeah. So.
I was ski by 150 before.
They're coming into these small coves.
Oh, it's
Is
crazy.
what's happening.
And then doing a turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not to mention the fact that those same people could be the ones winding up in the docks and doing some harm to themselves.
Yeah, and there's been hearings on this before in different Richmond and different areas, and typically what it looks like is that the people that support these boats are the boat dealers and the people that run them, and the people that are against it are the property and landowners. That's pretty consistent.
What we're seeing really, it's the folks that are coming to spend their dollars for us on the weekends. It's not necessarily the locals.
So are
They're
you
staying out.
suggesting we add this to our?
I would like that
Yes,
considered in
our
our
legislative
legislative priorities.
We okay with that? Okay. Anything else? All right, well, everyone will review that, and then if you have any other changes or additions or deletions, then we need to discuss it at our next board meeting. All right, county attorney report?
I have no report at this time, Mr. Judge.
Awesome.
Attaboy.
Board information, I guess we already have that. And board calendar, our next meeting is November 23rd. We do have an added work session that will start at 5 o'clock. The regular meeting will be at 7. And then the last meeting of the year will be December 14th, which will also have a work session at 5.
Make a motion, we'll adjourn.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn from Mr. Scott. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
What time is that thing tomorrow? 6:30 or 7?
I wrote, Charlotte, you got the emails, at 6:30 tomorrow night?
6:30 or 7? 6:30.
I thought 6:30.